Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this one is one that honestly has been in the making for quite a while. I am an assassination risk. Julian Assange and Ecuador's Attorney General face off in leaked transcript. I hate leaks. Julian Assange accused a weak Ecuador of starting to lean on the United States and the UK for various kinds of support last October, which he linked to the deteriorating conditions at the country's London embassy, where he has been living for nearly 7 years. Assange made the comments during an October 29, 2018 court hearing requesting the restoration of his ability to communicate with the outside world. Transcripts of the exchange were obtained by the Gateway pundit's Cassandra Fairbanks, who has traveled to London and reports that Assange is about to be kicked out of the embassy, a claim Ecuador denies. On March 28 of last year, Ecuador virtually gagged Assange after the WikiLeaks founder challenged whether Russia was behind the poisoning of former Russian double agent Sergei Skripal, which Ecuador said had breached a written commitment made to the government at the end of 2016 not to issue messages that might interfere with other states. Though Assange's privileges were eventually restored, he and his legal team sued the Ecuadorian government, and since then, tensions have only escalated. I've been in this embassy without sunlight for 6 years and essentially isolated from most people for 7 months, and including electronic communication, telephone, etc., from my young children. Assange said during the October 29th proceeding in front of an Ecuadorian court. It has interfered with my ability to work, to make a living, and with my deeply held principles that I have fought for all of my life, which is to uphold the right of freedom of expression, the right for people to know, the right of freedom of the press, and the right for everyone to participate in their society and the broader society, added Assange. Assange noted that due to his isolation, he has been unable to defend himself against various accusations which have resulted in a climate of libel and fake news that might be expected for someone who has been in the business of exposing very large and very powerful corrupt organizations or organizations that abuse human rights. What's more, the former WikiLeaks founder suggested that he is not safe in the embassy. I am an assassination risk. It's not a joke. It is a serious business, said Assange, who noted that there have been attempts by people to get into this embassy through windows at night. It appears there may have even been an attempt last night at 4:30 a.m. In other words, someone may have wanted to stop Assange from testifying last October. In 2016, WikiLeaks tweeted that it took UK police 2 hours to respond to a call after an unidentified man attempted to scale the wall of the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK at 2:47 a.m. The would-be intruder escaped security and managed to flee to safety, while embassy security waited for 2 hours for UK police to take the 2-minute walk from the police station to the embassy. You can see here a map showing the estimated time that it would take. Things got intense. It was when Assange began to criticize a weakened Ecuadorian government, which he accused of being influenced by the UK and the US, that things got heated between the WikiLeaks founder and Ecuador's general attorney Inigo Salvador, who had the judge halt Assange's speech to interject. Due to various weaknesses in the Ecuadorian government, namely the split, which I do not want to have nay part of. I believe that was supposed to be any within the government's party. It has become weak, and it has therefore started to lean on the United States and the UK for various kinds of support. And this has caused an undue amount of influence by the United States. It really comes from, well, we can trace it back. In March 2017, WikiLeaks published a very important publication, the largest ever in the history of the CIA, Julian Assange, October 29, 2018. Assange was cut off by the translator, who asked, "Mr. Assange, can you wait for a second? The judge has halted your presentation. Please stand by. The Attorney General is asking for the floor." I have decided not to remain quiet, given the malicious and perverse insinuations about what Ecuador is doing. It has been influenced by foreign states, said the AG, who insisted Ecuador is a sovereign country and this is how it's provided asylum and protection to Mr. Assange. Full transcript below. Of course, according to Fairbanks, Ecuador's new president has been trying to get rid of his Assange problem for a while. Last December, the New York Times revealed the country's president tried to sell Assange to the U.S. for debt relief. Ecuador received $4.2 billion in U.S.-backed IMF bailout on February 4th. The U.S. seeks Assange's extradition over WikiLeaks' 2010 publications on war and diplomacy. His alleged source, Chelsea Manning Bradley, was rejailed last month to coerce into a secret interrogation against him. On Thursday, WikiLeaks tweeted that a high-level source within the Ecuadorian state has told at WikiLeaks that Julian Assange will be expelled within hours to days, using the hashtag INA Papers offshore account as a pretext. The corruption scandal WikiLeaks referenced involves WikiLeaks reporting on papers alleging that Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno enriched himself from an offshore account in Panama, allegations which Moreno has vehemently denied. For his part, Moreno has ramped up pressure and scrutiny on Assange this week, saying in a radio interview that the whistleblower and journalist has egregiously and repeatedly violated the terms of his asylum. Moreno went so far as to indirectly suggest Assange and WikiLeaks lacked personal photos of him and his family, or leaked personal photos of him and his family online, but without directly referencing him by name. Photos of my bedroom, what I eat, and how my wife and daughters and friends dance have circulated, Moreno described, as reported by The Guardian. We should ensure Mr. Assange's life is not at risk, but he's violated the agreement we have with him so many times, Moreno said, according to the report. WikiLeaks says Moreno is attempting to generate a false pretext and publicly justifiable excuse on the back of the INA Papers scandal for ending Assange's asylum on the legal technicality that conditions have been broken. Whistleblower Edward Snowden, meanwhile, wondered over Twitter on Friday why Ecuador's foreign minister was tweeting about revoking asylum claims. Ecuador on Saturday denied that it has plans to expel Assange or that it had an agreement with the UK authorities to hand the WikiLeaks founder over. Ecuador's foreign ministry accused Assange of ingratitude towards his hosts, saying the asylum seeker and his associates expressed once again ingratitude and disrespect toward Ecuador. Ecuador's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a menacing statement released at 3 a.m. this morning GMT, stated that the revocation of asylum is a sovereign act, but that his expulsion is not imminent, but declined to define what is meant by imminent. Last Monday, this journalist visited Assange in the embassy and was locked in a room as an argument ensued between the publisher and Ecuador's ambassador Jaime Alberto Marchán. Assange claimed that he was being treated as a prisoner, that they would not let him meet a journalist in a room that did not contain surveillance equipment, and that the Ecuadorian embassy was acting as an agent of the U.S. government. Members of the U.S. government believe Ecuador is in fact giving them what they want regarding Assange, a former senior state official told BuzzFeed in January. As far as we're concerned, he's in jail. In response to word of Assange's potential expulsion, supporters are gathering outside Ecuador's London embassy this weekend. At one point, 2 UK cops enter the embassy only to leave a short while later. And you can see several Twitter posts, of course, the Scribd transcript. I'm not going to read through all 6 pages of that. You can if you'd like. This is honestly a story that is... I'm honestly surprised it's taken this long to become this big a story. Assange ran WikiLeaks, a site famous for leaking whatever information they can get their hands on. The mindset is information should always be free. And, of course, they get their hands on everything and boom, they leak whatever they want. I don't like that idea. I personally believe there is some information that should remain privileged. It's just the way it is. There's information that can become very dangerous, as we've seen with people being doxxed and having to move. But the tone of this article is very much teenager, with accusations thrown back and forth. There's very little to any proof of said accusations. It's become a he said, she said match. Now, Assange is, as he states at the beginning, an assassination risk. There are many people who do not want him to continue spreading information about anyone because they have dirt that may be found. So this is going to be one to follow. Ecuador, honestly, is, in my mind, they've always been one of the weaker nations on the planet because of their sheer size. It's just tiny compared to other countries. I'm honestly not sure why he's in the Ecuadorian embassy instead of another country, but it may be that Ecuador was the only one who would take him. It's been a long time. But I've talked long enough on this one. The article itself is very long. I will have a link to it in the description. Make sure that you let me know what you think. Keep the comments classy and civil as always. We don't learn from argument, we learn from debate. Beyond that, everyone make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, ring notifications so you get notified every time I post, as the schedule of 4s and 10s may have additions to it sometimes. Until next time, though, everyone have a wonderful day.